Welcome back. We are going to continue with our iPhone creation app tutorial. This is tutorial number 4. I hope you have gone through all the other tutorials and learned the basic tricks of creating the iPhone app. So go ahead and click on the Xcode icon and open your project book tracker tutorial. And let's continue from where we left. So let's quickly run the program just so that we are on the same page in terms of the functions we have developed so far. So I'll go ahead and run it quickly and have the simulator coming up soon. There you have it. Awesome. And then we are going to try out the basic functions we have done so far. If you recall, we can give a book name, the La Scintilla. All right. Give the author name. And the genre, fiction. And then you've learned that if you click on the back button, or sorry, refresh button, it will clean everything up. We also learned that if you do not have a book name, if you click on it, it says book cannot be blank. But at the same time, when you start typing, it doesn't go away. So that's an exercise I gave you with some hint. Hope you guys have done it. If not, we'll do it today. Similarly, if you have a book name or type something here, press this again. If author is blank, it will ask you the author name is not, cannot be blank. Press it again. Genre cannot be blank. We have done this, but what is happening now is after the red mark comes and it prompts you to change the book name, author, or the genre. Once you start typing, it doesn't go away. So let's first try to do that and see how we can get that going. So when I left you with your last tutorial, I have told you that it's giving you some hint on that, and that was more on a text box. So let's take the first one, the book name text box. I told you that every text box has certain events available, and those events you can trap to get certain function done. Okay, so I'll go ahead and stop this. Let's click on the text box. If you recall, I took you to the last icon on the property bar, which is the connector or connection inspector. And these are the available functions you have. And you can go around. If you click on this text box, you get similar function, but that is for the author text box and then for genre. And just to make sure you understand, since these three are text boxes, nothing has changed here from a function standpoint. But if you click on the button, you'll see here it has only one which we have linked, which is about validate button in this case to validate the text boxes, and this one is a reset button, which is an action to reset the text that you have within the text boxes. All right, so there are many ways you can create a connection. So I have taught you one way is to drag from the text box to the file, but before that, let's try to have the split screen. Bring the add book view control. That's where the entire coding of ours is, and the other one is here. I'll make it a little bit smaller, and then we will do it in 3 ways today, just to showcase how it happens. If you recall, this is your class. I just want to put it outside the function, last function we wrote, but inside the class. That's how it goes. So this is the function we wrote last time, which is the validate button. Right underneath that, we'll do the other function, right? So let's try to do that for the book name. So press on the control, and then once you're on the text box, drag it over here. As you can see, I've shown this before to you as well, within the class, but outside of any other function. When you release it, it's an action. Function is an action you want to take. You want to give a function by saying then which one you want to take. Before you give the name, let's try to see the event. When you drop down, see these events, these are same as what you see here. So the one that I want to say, as soon as the editing changes, I want to change it back to from red to gray, right? So there's a function editing change. Why don't you go ahead and select that, and let's give a name. This text box name is book name. So you say book name. You remember the syntax: the first letter is small, the second word letter capital. And I usually give the same event name, so it's easy for me to understand what I've created. So I'll give it the editing changed. So if it has book, if you see here book name, editing change in the name I've given. You can give any name, but I use a particular form of syntax so it is easy for me to recognize what I have done. So use the event name towards the end and the text field name in the beginning. Go ahead and connect this. So you have a function now. We can do, we'll write what you want to do inside this later. Since we're already in this function, why don't you create another editing change for author, one more for genre. Makes sense? But this time what we'll do is we'll select the author name, and instead of dragging from here, we can drag from here as well. See here, editing change. You can see this is selected. I go to editing change, press Control same way, and drag it down below here. Right, so you can give it a name. It's by default already editing change selected, so give it a name author editing changed. All right, excellent. I'll do one more for genre. This time I'll do it a little differently. I'll do genre. I'll make this a little bigger. You can see that in the book, within the book you have a view. This I've told you before, genre text field. You can select from here and drag as well. So these are the three different ways you can drag within your field, within your file. So dragged it again. This is again editing did and it shows. So I'll change it to editing changed, and I'll name it as this for genre. So genre editing changed. Okay. Function cannot have space in between, so it has to be continuous one name. Just keep that in mind from a syntax standpoint. So we have all these three. As you highlight it, you see it tells you which one is what. Perfect. So we have this. For now, let's exit out and we come back here. So what do you want to do here? So when book name, anything is changed here, any text is changed, at that point in time you want to make it gray, right? So how do you make it gray? Remember, we have the book name text field. So book text field dot, we said layer, and then we said layer dot, what's the next one? Border width. So I'll make the border width as 0. We made it 2 if you recall here, right here. And we'll say book text field dot layer dot border color equals to UI color. This I taught you yesterday, gray, and then you have to convert it to CG color. Excellent. Let's do it for one now and see that how it works before we change it for author and genre. Hope it works, and then we can repeat that for author and genre as well. All right, so we run this now. We are right here, and when I click on this function will be called. Since the first is the book name not equal to blank, so it will do what? It will make it red, right? So this, I'm highlighting this portion of the function will be called. Let's do that. See, it's making red. That's what I highlighted. Now if I start typing, it's in another event where I'm starting to type. It's the book name, which is right here. So this should be called, and it'll make the border width as 0 and as gray. So let's try doing that. How cool is that, right? So book cannot be blank. And then if you do this again, it is checking, making it red. Just start typing, it goes away. Great. So we have to do that for author and genre as well, because that now if you see here, if I do this, author is there, but if I start typing, it doesn't go away, because though this function is called, we are doing nothing inside it, right? So we have to do a similar kind of function what you have done for the book name. So go ahead and say author text field dot layer dot border width equals to 0, and then author text field dot layer dot border color equals to UI color, which has all the colors, dot will make it gray, dot you'll make it CG color. And similarly you'll do it here as well. Say genre text field dot layer dot border color equals to UI color dot gray dot CJ color, and I have to do the border as well. So border width as well. So it's a border width equals to 0. It doesn't matter which one you do first, both will be executed, it will be done. Okay, so let's run it once again and see if it is behaving the way we want to. So it's all blank. Click here, very good. Give a name. All right. Then I click this. It says author cannot be. See that become first responder. It takes you where it is blank. Author cannot be blank. So I start typing. It should go away again. Very cool. And I press this again. This is blank, so I'll make it fiction. Great. So this has worked so far the way we want to. So what do you want to do next, right? So what I want to teach you next is, before even going and saving, I should have saved this in the record, but I want to make the screen a little more richer. In other words, if you see this genre one, genre names are fixed, as I told you yesterday, right? So it can be fiction, non-fiction, or maybe historical fiction or fantasy and things like that, right? So instead of allowing the user to type as a free text, I want to give them an option, like a text box or a table which has all the values there, and you can select from there and it fills the text box accordingly. Okay, sorry about that. So it fills the text box accordingly. So I will go ahead and showcase that to you. So let's go ahead and stop this, and let's go ahead and try to see how to create a table view. So I take you back to the main storyboard. What I'm going to teach you now is a very important lesson. In fact, in most of the apps that you see on on your iPhone, most uses table view very exhaustively. Let me see if I can show you an inherent app which are already installed to showcase what I basically mean. Uh, let's say this. See, this is a table view. It has messages. You can see there are many names here coming. This is nothing but a table view, a simple table view, which when you click does some action, click does some action. Everything that you see actually on your phone, like your stock app, your phone app, your contact list, all are a table view. What is a table view? It's like a table where you can show values in a particular manner, with name, with images, with icons, and so on and so forth. So just to quickly show that, thought I can quickly showcase that to you. And let me click on another one, files. This doesn't have one as of now, but I think you got the sense. And let's see the context. See, this is another table view which shows you letter A has only one, letter B has only one, H has two. This is again a kind of a table view. So what I was trying to say is, when you create iPhone app, iPhone app is not complete unless and until you don't understand a table view, and there are many things you can do with a table view, but we'll start with the basics today. Okay, go ahead and stop this, and then what you do is, you remember how to get a new UI object, right? Click on the plus symbol. In this, you start typing table view. So you can see here, you will find two things on a table view. One is a table view cell, one is a table view controller. The one that I need is a table view. Just go ahead and select that and place it on your screen. You can size it a little bit, make it large, a little as large as you want it to be, and then we'll do the basic that you have already done before, right? So we'll go ahead, selected this, and then go ahead and click on the third icon from bottom, which is to resolve auto layout issues. If you remember that, add missing constraint, which will allow it to position itself and let the iPhone at runtime know how to display it on different screens. I've taught this before to you, so it just has put the constraints on all in blue, so it looks great. And then what you need to do is, once you have done, you have to set up some basic properties. So let's go ahead and do that. So once you have clicked on the table view, go to the fourth tab, which is the property tab, and right there, what you can see here is there is a prototype cell. What is a cell? Every row that table shows is a cell, so you at least need one cell. to showcase the value you want, and that cell will repeat it every time you want. So it's like you have 5 different values it needs to be displayed, and where it is getting displayed is cell. Typically we'll need one, sometimes you need two also, and I'll tell you in what occasions. If you want to have a different layout for different kind of value you want to show, you need to design it differently, and then you need more than one prototype cell. For now, for the beginning purpose, we will make the prototype cell as one. Okay. Once done with that, you as soon as you make one, you can see that there is a white bar that is created. Also, when you go on the navigation window, you see that there's a table view created here, and then you come down here, it created a table view cell, which is nothing but this white symbol. And it's a very easy way to understand this. Make it 0 again. Sorry, I made it 2. Make it 0 again. This table view is empty again. Make it 1. It will create one cell for you. And this cell has its own view where it can show various values. Okay. You get some by default some labels to display your content. We will get to that later, little later, but kind of a construct of a table view. Okay. There are a few more things you need to do to make sure a table view works. I think the first thing first, what we need to do is we need to make sure that our file, which is where the coding is, remember that is an add book view controller, knows that it has a table view. Just like you have made the text boxes aware that there is a table, that there is the file aware that there are text boxes. Similarly, you need to make the file, the view controller file aware there is a table view. You know how to do it. You have to go for split screen, which is an easy way to see two screens together. Click on the left screen and then click on add view controller. That's right, you are right here. And then if you click here and make it a little smaller, what I want is I need an outlet. You remember what is an outlet? An outlet is a reference to that object. So I need an outlet. The way you'll do the outlet is typically I put the outlet in the beginning of the file. Not necessary, but this is how I organize things so that I can see things in perspective in the right place together. So what you need to do is press a control button, similar way, there is no difference. And when you go here, say insert outlet or outlet connection, leave it over there. Make sure this is outlet. Give it a name. Give it a name which resonates with the table view. This is for genre, so it's a genre, and then you remember how I do it, right? Use the UI object name, and then you connect it. So you have another object created here on a genre table view, which is of type UI table view. Brilliant. Once you have done that, you have to do a few more steps before you make the table view work. What is the next step you need to do? The table view has to conform to certain protocol to make sure it functions accordingly. So what is a protocol, you'll ask? Protocol is a way by which you can let the object behave in a particular way. Now, in a table view, what you're going to do is when you are going to, in this particular example, you're going to show all of the different genres, right? Like the fiction, non-fiction and all. So it has data, right, that you want to show. And also it has a perspective around who will do that function, or that's what the protocol definition is all about. How do you do that? There are steps that you need to follow. Please follow through the steps that I'm going to do, and I'll try to explain it to you, and you'll learn more about this as you go along, right? As of now, this class, which is the name that you have given, is confirming to one protocol known as Uiviewcontroller Protocol. So that's the reason all the view controller function, as an example is view did load, which is part of that protocol, is available to you. If you want all of the table functions, what you need to do is put a comma. You say this class is also of type UI table view. There are two things you need to select. One is delegate, put a comma again, and it says UI table view data source. Okay. Delegate, it'll give a quick error to you in a little bit later, which is okay. I'll tell you what is that about. Delegate is, that means you're delegating the function of table view to a particular outlet here in the class, which is nothing but the genre table view, which will allow it to do all the function on its behalf. And data source lets you display data on its behalf, right? There is an error you get, and the beauty of Swift programming is once there is an error, this is one way to learn it. You can click on the red dot and it lets you fix as well, right? So what is the error is saying? Please read that and then I'll explain to you. Type add book view control, which is the name you've given, does not conform to protocol of data source. So moment you say data source, there are certain functions that you need to add, and those functions are important for it to perform what it has to do. So let's go ahead and fix it first and see what it does. It adds two functions. These are default functions available. So minimum of these two functions we need to have. For now, I'll just copy it, and for simplicity purpose, I exit out and put it towards the end. We'll come to that in a little bit later, but let's try to do few more things. So I have added the delegate and the data source, but I have not told who the delegate for the table view is, right? Because one view can have multiple table views. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, in your view did load, which is the first function when it is called, right? When the view is getting loaded, as I told you before. If you recall, we printed something here as well. When the view is first time getting loaded, at that time I want to let the view know that the genre table view dot delegate, it is going to delegate itself. So you simply say self. Okay, and genre table view dot data source, just like your delegate, as also it will provide by itself, right? This is important because then the view knows that for doing this delegate function and for data source function, the table responsible is this one. So itself, I'm myself responsible for delegating all the function, and I'm myself responsible for the data source. When I say myself, I'm genre table, it's stating to the class file. So, and see where I've done it. I'm doing it when the event, which event is fired? When the view is getting loaded, okay, which is the default function available to you. Once you have done with that, that means you have a functioning table view. But let's now look at the two functions that you have taken, and these are important one, and I'm sure, and it may be little loaded to you now, but you'll get used to it as we go along. So just bear with me as I try to explain to you. The first one is, if you see, this is of table view, and any function can have what is it bringing in. Anything that it gives you is within the open and the close bracket. Okay, it has two things it is giving you. It is giving you the reference to the table view, and it is also giving you how many rows are in the section, right? So how many rows are there in that particular table. And after the bracket, if it shows an arrow mark and another data type, int means integer, it means it expects that you return back an integer. So what you need to do here is, you need to tell the table view that how many rows you have that you want to display. Okay, for simplicity now, since I have to return, this symbol basically means you have to return. There is a function known as return, and it expects an integer back. So you say return. For now, I'll say that I will have two objects. We'll say 2. It's an integer, so 2 is an integer. It satisfies the protocol. That means I'll have 2 rows of value, and I'm just making it, or let's say for now, I'll just simply say I have 1 row of value. When you say that, then when the table view next function is called, which is this function, it knows that it has to go for twice. What is this function? This function tells you that for every cell, remember the prototype cell that you put, for that cell, it has to return a value of UI table view cell, right? For that, let's quickly go back to the main storyboard once again, and just to refresh your memory, this is the cell I'm talking about, right? So when I select the cell, which is, you can either select here or you can select here, we have to give it a name. So see here, identifier, let me give it a name, genre cell. How about that? Okay, so that I can refer to this cell as genre cell within my class file. Okay, my table view is already connected, so you don't have to do any more connection. It will by default know the cell name, and you can get the details accordingly over here. Okay, now when you are back here, what you need to do is, you need to create a cell, because see, it's requiring a UI table view cell. How do you create a cell? To define a cell, there are two ways. You can say var or there is a let. I'll tell you the difference between the two in a little bit later. Let means you are telling this compiler or the system that I want to create a variable with the name cell. You can give any name, by the way. I'm just giving the name let cell equals to the table view. It is within the table view. You say table view, and just like properties you access, so there is a property dq reusable cell with identified. You see this fourth one? And what is dq reusable cell? I'll come to that in a little bit later, but let's for the timing select that. It expects a name. Remember the name we have given? Give that name over there. So genre cell. This is a name we have given, right? So I'm saying that please create a cell which is of type table view dq reusable cell with the identified genre cell. dq is a very important function. What happens is when you're in a phone, your memory, your CPU usage is very important. You want to, if you recall what I told you, if you say return 100, it will create hundreds of these cells. What a DQ basically does is at any point in time, though you can create 100, the screen may display only 10 or 12. It will only create those 10 or 12 that is visible, and as you scroll up and scroll down, it will keep on reusing the cell that you have created so that you are not wasting memory of your phone, and your phone is fast, your app is fast. Okay, I'll tell you more about this as we go along, but just follow through the syntax. You created a cell. Now this cell now can be used to display values. So when you say cell, like any other properties, how do you get the property? By creating a dot. It has something on a text label. So I'll say text label. And then for that label, you want text. So you say text equals, for now, I'll just simply say test. I'm giving a value test. And then once it is done, this expects a return. Remember the symbol, and it expects a cell to be returned. So you'll simply say, I have done everything that is required and return it back so that it can display the cell for me. Beauty is a lot of the coding is already done. So it is important that you simply follow the pattern accordingly. Okay. All right. So what I have done is I have put a force. This means I'm forcing it. So in case it is not created, it will force it accordingly and return it back. Uh, I'm going to teach you more about forcing, and there's something on this question mark as well, which I'll teach you later. You can see there are question marks coming here as well. I'll teach you a little bit later, but for now, let's quickly run it and see. So what we basically did, just to refresh everything, we went to your main storyboard. We dragged a table into this. We made sure the table has one prototype cell. We went to that prototype cell, we gave a name, genre cell. Okay. Once the name has been given, we connected this to the file to which this view controller belongs, which is the add view controller. And then we added two protocols, UI table view delegate and UI table data source. When the file is getting loaded, we told that these two delegate and data sources for this. So I took the genre table view, which you have created an outlet already, and told the data delegate is itself and data source is itself. When we created these two protocol, it by default gave an error to us, using which we created two functions which are absolute must to abide by the protocol. And when these functions are created, the first one explained to you tells you how many rows you have. So I'm saying return one. So in this case, I want to create one row, and then what value you need to have there. So the way we did that was we said let cell, we define, this can be any name. This is my variable equals to the table view that I'm getting from there. I'm saying please DQ or reuse the cell with the identified genre cell. And I told the reason why, because if this number is 100, you don't want to create 100 cells. It will keep reusing it. The system does it automatically as you scroll up and scroll down. And for that cell, I've taken a text label property, and from the text label, I've taken a text property, and I have set the value is test, and I'm returning that cell back. So if I run this right now, your table view should show one value known as test. Let's try to run this and see. Okay, so it comes right here, test, right? Okay, So see, this is a table view. I have not beautified it, taking the default white color. You can go ahead and put different color schemes to it. It comes perfectly fine right where I want it, because I put the constraint, if you recall, and it has one value. Now go ahead and play around with this. So let's see if I make it return 10. What should happen, right? So if I say 10, this will be repeated for 10 times. So you'll have 10 test value, right? So let's run this. Okay, it shows 2, but if you, this because your table view has a smaller size, but if you scroll up, you can see all the 10 values coming. Cool. I would like the table view to be a little bigger in size, so go back to main storyboard and drag this down a little bit more. So the moment I drag it down, there is a orange symbol that comes. That means the constraint has been disturbed. So go ahead and click on the table view again, go to the third icon. It's very easy. See, it's a update constraints. So I update it. Perfect. All the warnings are gone. Now if I run it, I should get a bigger table view with the values coming in. Okay, but that is not helping me, because what I want here is not test. I want fiction, non-fiction, or historical fiction, or some of those criteria over here. So how do I do that? For doing that, I'm going to teach you a new concept known as array. So I need a variable which can hold value, right? These are all variables. There's a system defined variable we created for the outlet. Now I'm going to define my own variable which can hold all the different genre types. So the way to define a variable are two ways. One is var, other one is let. The difference between var and let is a var variable value can change, a let cannot change. So if I say let x, if I define x, and I'll tell you how to define that. So I say this is integer. Once I define it, I cannot change the value of x, right? If I say let, but if I say var, I can absolutely go and change it during my different operation. Okay. So what you do is, just where you have mentioned the outlets, so right outside of every function, this is a function, this is a function, because I want all my function to see it. So the visibility is like this. If I put it over here, each of my function can see it, but if I put it over here, only this function can see it. Now this will be used across the class file, because I need to use it for table, this function, as well as for this function, because here I have to return how many rows I have, here I have to return the value. I will define it outside of, as a class level variable outside of any function. Okay, so I'll make it var, because I may change it. Let's try with that, and I give it a name, genre and array, so that I know it's an array. The way to define this is, any variable is you have to put a colon, give a name, say var, which I explained you, var or let. Let's say var for now. Give the name and then put a colon, and what type of array is this? So you say this is of string type. So there are many types. The integer, which I show you, int. There is boolean, which is true or false, and the most popular ones are these like string, and float is another type of number which goes beyond the integer value. So I will say string. This is a collection of string, right? And then what I'll do is, this is an array. That means I can have many strings. So what you do is, when you want to show an array, you just put brackets around it. So moment you put a bracket, it basically means that this is an array. And then what I want to do is, I want to put the value, oops, I want to put the value right within the brackets here. So what I do is, I put the open and close bracket and put as many values you want, comma separated. So I'll say non-fiction, I'll say non-fiction. I'll keep it simple for now. Put a comma, I'll say fiction, comma, let's say thriller, comma suspense, comma biography. So you have non-fiction, fiction, thriller, suspense, and biography, right? So these are some. You can give more, so you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now I have 5 value that I want to display. Go back to your table. So here I can say return. Either I can say return 5, or I can say, what is the name of my array? Genre array. You can say dot. Remember, the properties comes with a dot, and you can say count. Count gives an integer value back. And the way to see it is, when you say dot and say count, see here, the part I'm highlighting integer is returning an integer, right? So it will return an integer. So if there are 5, it will say 5. There are 10, it will say 10. So you don't have to put a constant here. You can let the program automatically define. So anytime you change the values here, it will automatically know what it needs to do. Pretty cool. Now I want the value to be here, right? And based upon, for the first time it comes, it should be the first value. Second time it comes, it should be the second value, so on and so forth. How do I do that? So value is in the genre array. So it is genre array. And typically if you say 0, that means it will always show. So it will give you 5 count because there are 5. It will always show the first value, right? Let's try to run it and show. I've said 0. 0 means it's the count starts from 0. So it's like a whole number. So 0 is non-fiction. So what will happen is count is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it will show non-fiction 5 times. All right, let's quickly run this and see if that's what is happening. Pretty cool, isn't it? But I want non-fiction followed by fiction and others. So how do I do that? For that, I should know that which row number, which count number I am in. To get that, the function already provides with it. Like the table view, it has something like index path. Index path has two function. It has two properties, sorry. It has a property. If you type the index path with this small I, see, this is a variable I'm talking about, right? Index path. I type that variable. Oops, that is a spelling mistake. Index path. And say dot, it has something known as row as a property. Okay. So what it basically does is, as the loop is going on, it will give 0 for the first time. Second time it comes, to automatically increases to number 1, 2, 3, 4. It will keep on going till this count number is satisfied. So it will become 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. So automatically get non-fiction, fiction, thrillers, suspense, and biography. All right, let's run this. How cool is that? So you got all the value that you need. So I want to now give a quick recap and tell you what I want to do next, but there are some very important functions you have learned today. It's critical if you experiment with those, you play around with those so they can understand how things are done. I'm going to do a quick recap and also want to tell you what we are going to do in the next class, okay? All right, let's halt it. So what did we learn today? So let's go back to the main storyboard. We learned a new object known as table view. We use the plus symbol and you got a table view placed right over here. Once the table view is placed, the property of the table view, which is the fourth one from the top, is that it has one type of cell. And for that cell, when I click on the cell, I get a genre cell name. Right after that, we basically went to the add book view controller, which is where this whole screen is attached to, and we made sure that there's an outlet which is created known as genre table view. Again, this is your name, we are following the syntax we want to. By this, I have a reference to this table view within this class file. Then what we did, we learned about protocols. So there are two protocols we need to make sure are confirmed to do this function. They are table view delegate and table view data source. Once you bought those two in, remember there was an error because this delegate needs at least two functions. Those are these two functions. We added those two functions and we copied it towards the bottom of the file. We also went ahead and did few more things. We created an array first. So array is a collection of objects. So we have said how to define it. We learned var and let. So we say var genre array string, and we have to give the braces if you have more than one value, and within that brackets, the square brackets, you put the different values. Let's for the timing make it let because we're not changing it, so you can keep it let as well, hopefully, and you can see that it's a better way to do programming. If you're not changing value, make it let. It is easier on the program from memory and performance standpoint, so we made it let now. And then since we are not changing it, we are defining it once, we are not changing the value for now. If you in future want to change for some reason, then we have to change this to var. Okay, now what we also did was in this function we learned that this function needs we learned that return is outside the bracket, small bracket. It needs an integer, which is like telling you how many rows are there. That's what it's asking. So we return a genre array count. That's a property of the array, so it will tell you the number of values it has inside. And within the second function, which is the cell for row at, this is a function name. So what is a cell within that row is exactly what we are trying to do. We define this cell. The cell is actually within the table view, and you see we use the let so that it is used only once, or sorry, it's not updated per se. So what we are doing is we use the function dequeue reusable cell, because what we want to do is we want to keep using the cell. If you've created once, and don't keep creating it as they go along. System does it for us, and we give the name that you're given here. If you give the wrong name here, remember it'll crash and fail. Okay. And then within that cell, there's a property text label, and there is a text property where we put genre array. We learned that index path gives you the value of where you are, dot row, gives that value back to this, and we've returned this cell. So it'll go for, in this case, 5 times and print the value accordingly. If you put a more value into it, it'll go for 6 times, and so on and so forth. We also did learn about some other text field function, editing change. So as soon as the editing changes, we make it to gray, and for that text field to border width to 0, and learn that how you can get the text field connected to your class files. Very event driven, right? So what you're going to do next, let me run and tell you what we're going to do next. And if you can try doing it yourself, that will be great as well. Explore a little bit more. I'll give you some hints as well. This one will be a little tough, but let me still tell you what I want to do. What I want to do next is, when I click on a thriller or a suspense or a biography, what I want to do is I want to bring that value back here, right? I want to assign it back here. This will be easy. I'll tell you how to do it. I'll give you a hint, and probably you should try it out. Okay. So that's one thing we want to do. The second thing we'll do in the next time is, if you have a very long list, and we'll put all the different genres here, at least 10, 15 of them. What I want to do is, as the user types in, the list becomes shorter and shorter, right? It kind of searches the list and displays what you have. Imagine you have like 50 values, and if you scroll down and up, very hard for the user. But if you remember, yeah, I need a thriller, it's type T, and you get thriller right over there, or you type A, you get biography, as well as we don't have anything A. Let's say I, so you get fiction and non-fiction both, right? So I want to do that as well as the second part, and then put that value in. And then once we are done with that, I also want to do a few things that hide the table view when you're not in genre, and show the table view when you're coming to genre. So hiding and showing and things like that. Okay. So how to do the first one, the where I said that if I select, the value should go here. The way to do that is explore a little bit more. Table view has one more function. To get the table view function, just go down, simply say table view, and get all the function listed. And you have to figure out which one is the one I'm referring to. But it is a function known as, when you select a row, what happens. So far we have done how many rows and what you do in that row. It is a function known as when you select, right? So find out that function, and in that function, what you need to do is, when you click on that, you get that particular row number. So what you need to do is, you need to assign that value to what? Genre text field. It's as simple as that. So do that. Try that out in the next class. We'll also try doing, or maybe we can do this one today. Okay. And then we'll try doing the remainder of the function later on. So at least I'll show you something today. So table view, there is something like did select row. Did you see that? Did select row. Select that. It gives you the whole construct. Doesn't return anything, but it gets a table view and index path. So what you need to do is, when this is selected, so whenever you select, that particular row number comes in. So you say that where you need to assign it to. Genre text field, right? That's what I asked you to do. And you know that the property is text. So whenever somebody selects it, get that genre array. You have all the names over there, but which one you need to get? The one that is selected, and you know how to get it. Index path.row. It's as simple as that. So when somebody selects it, it will replace genre text field with that value. Cool. Let's try to run that and see this. Sorry, spoiler alert. I thought I'll give that as an exercise, but thought it's a quick and easy one. At least you'll see a few more things since I did it. Okay. All right. So now suspense. See, it comes right over there, because this function is called fiction. Does beautifully, right? Okay, so the next class, then what we are going to do is, we are going to learn about, when you start typing, how does the list becomes shorter and longer, and probably we'll also hide it when we don't want it, right? So that the screen is more clean and pristine. So with that, I will let you go and hope you enjoyed the class. And if you do like, please do subscribe, because when you subscribe, you get to know when I release a video. And also, please pass it along to your friends, family, anyone you think that would like to learn coding. We're going to have a fun time. I'm starting with the basics. We are going to go real advanced. And I promise you, by the time you come out of the first tutorial, you'll be well equipped to create your own iPhone application. Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye.